My dear students, welcome back to our channel. Students, in this video I am explaining
B.Ed
first semester, subject Philosophical Foundations of Education, important
long
questions and answers. Let's start quick revision. First important long question is, what are the heterodox Nastika schools of Indian philosophy? What are their educational implications? In Indian philosophy, Nastika refers to the schools of thought that do not accept the authority of the Vedas, which are central to the orthodox, Astika, traditions. The Nastika schools include Charvaka, Jainism, Buddhism and Ajivika. 1. Charvaka, materialism. Charvaka is the most well-known Nastika school, and it is purely materialistic. It rejects the supernatural, afterlife, and the authority of religious scriptures. Charvaka philosophers believe that only the material world is real, and the goal of life is to maximize sensory pleasure. In terms of education, the Charvaka school would emphasize practical, empirical knowledge over abstract religious or metaphysical teachings. Learning would focus on logic, reasoning, and sensory experience, encouraging students to question traditional religious beliefs. 2. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha rejects the Vedas and emphasizes the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path to attain enlightenment and end suffering. In education, Buddhist teachings stress the importance of mindfulness, self-discipline, and meditation. The focus would be on developing wisdom, prajna, and ethical behavior, sila. Education would foster critical thinking, self-awareness, and compassion, aiming for personal transformation and understanding of the nature of suffering. 3. Jainism, founded by Mahavira, also rejects the Vedic texts but focuses on non-violence, ahimsa, truth, and asceticism. Jain education would prioritize ethical conduct, self-restraint, and the practice of non-violence. Students would be taught to respect all forms of life and practice detachment from material desires, leading to liberation, moksha. 4. Ajivika school, founded by Makhali Goshala, believed in determinism and that human life is governed by fate. Education in this tradition would involve understanding the predetermined nature of existence, promoting acceptance of the world as it is, and cultivating a form of passive endurance or renunciation. Educational implications. These Nastika schools all challenge conventional religious thought, promoting skepticism and critical inquiry. In education, this would encourage independent thinking, ethical living, and practical knowledge rather than rote memorization of religious texts. Students would be encouraged to question established norms and explore the world through reason and personal experience. In conclusion, the Nastika schools of philosophy provide alternative ways of thinking about life, ethics, and knowledge. Their educational implications would be to foster critical thinking, self-awareness, and a pragmatic approach to life and learning. Next important long question is, discuss the scope of philosophy of education in detail. The philosophy of education is a field that explores the fundamental questions regarding the nature, purpose, and process of education. It examines the values, beliefs, and goals that shape educational practices and systems. The scope of philosophy of education is broad, covering various aspects such as the aims of education, the role of the teacher, the curriculum, and the relationship between knowledge, learning, and society. 1. Aims of education. One of the primary concerns of the philosophy of education is understanding what the purpose of education should be. Should education aim to prepare individuals for the workforce, develop critical thinking skills, or cultivate moral and ethical values? For example, in Western philosophies, figures like John Dewey emphasized education as a means of fostering democratic participation and critical thinking. In contrast, Confucian philosophy views education as a way to promote moral integrity and social harmony. 2. Role of the teacher. Philosophy of education also investigates the teacher's role in the classroom. Teachers are seen not just as knowledge transmitters, but as guides and facilitators of learning. For example, in the Socratic method, inspired by the Greek philosopher Socrates, the teacher engages students through questioning, encouraging them to discover knowledge for themselves. The role of the teacher, therefore, shifts from a lecturer to a mentor. 3. Curriculum and pedagogy. The curriculum is another important focus in the philosophy of education. What should students learn, and how should they learn it? For instance, progressivism, a philosophy led by John Dewey, advocates for a curriculum that is flexible, student-centered, and based on real-life experiences. It encourages active learning rather than passive absorption of facts. 4. Social and cultural dimensions. Philosophy of education also examines how education interacts with society and culture. What role does education play in shaping social values, promoting equality, or reinforcing power structures? For example, critical pedagogy by Paulo Freire stresses the need to challenge existing inequalities through education and empower marginalized communities. Conclusion. In conclusion, the scope of the philosophy of education is vast. It covers the purpose of education, the roles of educators, the nature of learning, and how education influences society. By reflecting on these areas, philosophy of education helps shape more thoughtful and effective educational systems that respond to both individual needs and broader societal goals. Next important long question is: explain the importance of knowledge of philosophy of education for a teacher. The knowledge of philosophy of education is crucial for teachers as it provides a deeper understanding of their role, teaching methods, and the overall goals of education. Philosophy of education helps teachers reflect on the purpose of education, the nature of learning, and how to foster an environment that supports both intellectual and personal growth in students. Here's why it's important. 1. Guiding teaching practices. Philosophy of education helps teachers define their teaching approach. For example, a teacher who follows progressivism, based on John Dewey's ideas, might prioritize hands-on, student-centered learning, where students actively engage with real-world problems. On the other hand, a teacher inspired by essentialism might focus on imparting core knowledge and traditional subjects. The philosophy teachers adopt helps them create effective lesson plans and choose teaching methods that align with their educational beliefs. 2. Understanding the purpose of education. Teachers need to understand what they are trying to achieve through education. Is the goal to help students become critical thinkers, prepare them for the workforce, or cultivate moral character? For instance, in a constructivist approach, inspired by Piaget and Vygotsky, the goal is to help students actively construct their own knowledge through exploration and collaboration, rather than passively receiving information. A teacher who understands this philosophy will structure their classroom to encourage curiosity and problem-solving. 3. Fostering student development. Philosophy of education provides insights into the development of the child as a learner. Teachers who are familiar with humanistic philosophies, such as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, will recognize the importance of addressing students' emotional and psychological needs in addition to intellectual growth. This knowledge helps teachers create a supportive classroom atmosphere that nurtures the whole child. 4. Ethical and moral framework. The philosophy of education also helps teachers develop an ethical framework for their teaching. For example, critical pedagogy encourages teachers to empower students, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, by challenging social inequalities in the classroom. By understanding this, a teacher can create a more inclusive and just educational environment. Conclusion. In conclusion, knowledge of philosophy of education is essential for teachers because it shapes their teaching style, helps them understand their role, and guides their approach to student development. It enables teachers to create thoughtful, inclusive, and effective learning experiences that go beyond just imparting knowledge. Next important long question is discuss the role of school in promoting child-centric pedagogies. The role of the school in promoting child-centric pedagogies is essential in ensuring that students' learning needs, interests, and development stages are at the heart of educational practices. Child-centric pedagogy focuses on the child as an active participant in their learning process, emphasizing personalized, hands-on, and inquiry-based experiences. Here's how schools can promote such approaches. 1. Creating a student-centered environment. Schools should provide an environment where students feel safe, valued, and respected. For example, Montessori schools use learning materials and classroom designs that encourage children to explore, experiment, and learn at their own pace. The teacher acts as a facilitator, guiding students based on their interests and needs. This helps children develop independence and a love for learning. 2. Encouraging active learning. Child-centric pedagogies emphasize that students learn best through active involvement. For instance, project-based learning, (PBL), allows students to explore real-world problems, collaborate, and apply knowledge in meaningful ways. In a PBL classroom, students might work together to solve an environmental issue, integrating subjects like science, math, and social studies. This method makes learning relevant and engaging. 3. Adapting to individual needs. Every child learns differently, and schools that promote child-centric pedagogy focus on differentiating instruction. For example, teachers might use differentiated instruction techniques, like providing visual aids for visual learners or hands-on activities for kinesthetic learners. This ensures that each child's unique strengths and learning styles are taken into account, leading to better engagement and understanding. 4. Fostering emotional and social development. Child-centric pedagogy isn't just about academics, it also focuses on social and emotional growth. Schools can implement social-emotional learning (SEL) programs, which teach children how to manage emotions, work with others, and make responsible decisions. For example, a teacher might guide students through discussions about teamwork and empathy, helping them develop skills that are crucial for their overall well-being. Conclusion. In conclusion, schools play a pivotal role in promoting child-centric pedagogies by creating supportive, engaging, and personalized learning environments. By focusing on the needs, interests, and developmental stages of children, schools help nurture independent, motivated, and socially responsible learners. This approach leads to a more holistic and meaningful educational experience for every child. Next important long question is explain the significance of indigenous pedagogy with suitable examples. Indigenous pedagogy refers to the traditional methods of teaching and learning that are rooted in the cultural, spiritual, and social practices of indigenous communities. It emphasizes experiential learning, community involvement, and the transmission of knowledge through storytelling, observation, and practice. The significance of indigenous pedagogy lies in its holistic approach to education, which integrates the mind, body, and spirit, and is deeply connected to the land, culture, and traditions of a community. 1. Connection to culture and tradition. One of the key aspects of indigenous pedagogy is that it preserves and transmits cultural values, practices, and knowledge that are essential for the survival and identity of indigenous communities. For example, in Native American communities, knowledge is often passed down through oral traditions, such as storytelling. Elders share stories that teach moral values, history, and survival skills, connecting younger generations to their heritage. This approach fosters a deep sense of identity and belonging among children. 2. Experiential and community-based learning. Indigenous pedagogy often involves learning through direct experience rather than just classroom instruction. For example, among the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, children learn about the environment, flora, and fauna by participating in activities like hunting, fishing, and gathering, often alongside their families. This hands-on learning not only teaches practical skills, but also strengthens the bond between children and their natural surroundings, creating a sense of responsibility towards the land. 3. Holistic development. Indigenous pedagogies recognize the importance of developing the whole child intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. In the Maori culture of New Zealand, the concept of Vhangatanga emphasizes strong relationships and interconnectedness within the community. Education is seen as a collective responsibility, where children learn not just from teachers but from their family and community. This fosters emotional intelligence and social cohesion, teaching children the value of collaboration and community support. 4. Respect for nature and the environment. Indigenous pedagogy often fosters a deep respect for nature and teaches sustainable living practices. For instance, the Inuit people in the Arctic teach their children survival skills like ice fishing, hunting, and navigating the harsh climate. These practices emphasize the importance of living in harmony with nature, teaching respect for the environment and sustainable practices. Conclusion. In conclusion, Indigenous pedagogy is significant because it offers a culturally grounded, experiential, and holistic approach to learning that values community, tradition, and respect for nature. It teaches valuable life skills, fosters a sense of belonging, and promotes the preservation of cultural heritage. By integrating indigenous pedagogies into modern education, we can enrich learning experiences and encourage deeper connections to cultural identity and the environment. Next important long question is discuss the objectives, curriculum and discipline of education system as per Vedic Darshan. The Vedic Darshan, philosophical system, provides a foundational approach to education, deeply rooted in the Vedas, the sacred texts of ancient India. The educational system as per Vedic Darshan was holistic, emphasizing spiritual growth, moral development, and practical knowledge. It focused on nurturing the mind, body, and spirit, aiming to achieve both worldly and spiritual success. Objectives of Vedic education. The primary objective of Vedic education was to achieve self-realization and moksha, liberation, through learning. Education was seen as a means to discover one's true self and connect with the divine. Additionally, Vedic education aimed to cultivate knowledge, wisdom, and ethical values, ensuring students developed qualities like truthfulness, self-discipline, and humility. A key goal was to integrate knowledge with personal and social responsibility. For example, in ancient times, students were taught not just academic subjects but also how to live a righteous life according to dharma, moral law, contributing to the well-being of society. Curriculum in Vedic education. The curriculum in the Vedic education system was vast and diverse, covering both spiritual and worldly knowledge. It included 1. Vedic texts and philosophy. Students learned the Vedas, Upanishads, and other scriptures, which imparted knowledge about the universe, the nature of the self, and the path to liberation. 2. Mathematics and science. Practical knowledge was also emphasized. Students studied astronomy, mathematics, and medicine, often through oral transmission and discussions with teachers. 3. Music, art, and rituals. Arts like music and dance were part of the education to develop a sense of creativity and cultural appreciation. Rituals and ceremonies also played a significant role, fostering discipline and mindfulness. The learning was primarily oral. Students would memorize texts and engage in debates, discussion, and reflection. Discipline in Vedic education was focused on self-control, respect for teachers, and learning through practice. Students adhered to strict codes of conduct, practicing humility and dedication to their studies. Teachers, gurus, were highly respected, and the relationship between teacher and student was integral. The discipline involved rigorous mental and physical training, including meditation, fasting, and self-restraint, which helped students develop concentration and inner peace. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Vedic educational system aimed to produce well-rounded individuals who were spiritually enlightened, morally responsible, and practically knowledgeable. Its curriculum was vast and covered a wide range of subjects, with discipline rooted in self-control and respect for tradition. By focusing on the holistic development of the individual, Vedic education continues to offer valuable insights for modern educational systems. Next important long question is describe critically outline the constitutional vision of Indian education. The Constitution of India envisions education as a fundamental right and a tool for fostering equality, national integration, and social development. The constitutional framework for Indian education is based on the principles of justice, equality, and democracy, with an emphasis on providing quality education to all citizens. 1. Right to education. The Constitution of India guarantees the right to education, RTE, under Article 21-A, which mandates free and compulsory education for children aged 6 to 14 years. This is a transformative vision, ensuring that every child, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status, has access to education. For example, the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan (SSA) is a government initiative that aims to make elementary education universally accessible. 2. Promotion of equality and social justice. A key constitutional vision is to promote social justice and equality in education. Article 15 prohibits discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth, ensuring that education is inclusive. Special provisions like reservations for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes, OBCs, help reduce educational disparities. For instance, scholarship programs and affirmative action in higher education institutions aim to level the playing field for marginalized communities. 3. Fundamental duty to promote education. The Directive Principles of State Policy, DPSP, under Article 45 advocate for the provision of free and compulsory education for all children under the age of 14, and the state is urged to promote higher education and make it accessible to all. While the DPSPs are not enforceable, they guide policymakers in creating educational strategies and frameworks, such as the National Policy on Education, NPE, and the National Education Policy, NEP. 4. Development of human potential. The Constitution envisions education as a means to develop the full potential of individuals and the nation. It emphasizes the development of critical thinking, moral values, and national identity. For example, subjects like value education, history, and civic studies are included in the curriculum to promote national integration and responsibility towards society. Conclusion. In conclusion, the constitutional vision of Indian education focuses on creating an inclusive, equal, and just society through accessible education. It seeks to empower individuals, foster national unity, and bridge social divides. While significant strides have been made, challenges like quality, infrastructure, and gender disparities remain, requiring continued effort to fully realize the constitutional goals. Next important long question is what child rights? Discuss CRC. Child rights refer to the fundamental freedoms and protections that children are entitled to, ensuring their well-being, development, and dignity. These rights are universally recognized to ensure that every child, regardless of background, has the opportunity to grow up in a safe and nurturing environment. The Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC, adopted by the United Nations in 1989, outlines the civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights of children. What are child rights? Child rights are the specific entitlements children have in areas such as protection, education, healthcare, and participation. These rights ensure that children are treated with dignity, protected from harm, and provided with opportunities to develop to their full potential. Some key child rights include right to education. Every child has the right to free and compulsory primary education. Right to protection from abuse and neglect. Children have the right to be protected from physical and mental abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Right to health and well-being. Children have the right to access health care, nutritious food, and safe living conditions. Right to participation. Children have the right to express their views and be heard in matters that affect them. CRC, Convention on the Rights of the Child. The CRC is an international treaty that outlines the rights of children. It consists of 54 articles, which cover a wide range of issues, including 1. Non-discrimination. All rights apply to all children without any discrimination, regardless of their race, nationality, or background. 2. Best interests of the child. Every decision made concerning a child should prioritize their well-being and development. 3. Right to survival and development. Every child has the right to life, and governments must ensure conditions that allow children to develop physically, mentally, and socially. 4. Right to be heard. Children have the right to express their views and have their opinions considered in decisions that affect them. Example in practice, the Right to Education Act in India reflects the CRC by ensuring that every child between the ages of 6 and 14 has access to free and quality education. Similarly, the Juvenile Justice Act works to protect children in conflict with the law, in line with the CRC's provisions on protection. Conclusion: the CRC has played a crucial role in protecting and promoting child rights globally. It emphasizes the importance of respecting children's voices, providing them with basic needs, and ensuring their development in a safe environment. However, challenges like child labor, child trafficking, and inadequate education still exist, requiring ongoing global efforts to fully uphold these rights. Next important long question is describe in detail value education in Indian perspective. Value education in the Indian context refers to the process of teaching moral values, ethical principles, and social responsibilities to children and young adults. It aims to nurture well-rounded individuals who contribute positively to society. Rooted deeply in Indian traditions, value education is concerned with fostering qualities such as honesty, compassion, respect, and social responsibility. Historical and cultural significance in India, value education has been an integral part of the educational system since ancient times. Ancient texts like the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita have emphasized the importance of values like nonviolence, ahimsa, truth, satya, and duty, dharma. These teachings shaped the Indian worldview and provided moral guidance. For example, the Bhagavad Gita teaches the importance of selfless action, karma yoga, and the concept of righteousness, dharma, which guides individuals to make ethical decisions. Objectives of value education. The primary objective of value education is to develop the inner character of students. It helps them understand the importance of 1. Ethical conduct, teaching students the value of integrity, honesty, and kindness, which are foundational to a peaceful and just society. 2. Respect for others, encouraging respect for elders, teachers, peers, and different cultures and beliefs. 3. Social responsibility, making students aware of their duty towards society, including helping the less fortunate and taking care of the environment. 4. Spiritual development, encouraging students to look beyond material success and seek inner peace, compassion, and self-improvement. Methods of imparting value education in India. Value education can be taught through a variety of methods. Curriculum integration, including topics like moral science, ethics, and life skills in the school curriculum. For example, lessons from the Ramayana or Mahabharata can be used to discuss ethical dilemmas and decision-making. Storytelling, Indian folklore, myths, and religious stories are often used to teach values. For instance, stories of Mahatma Gandhi's life highlight values like truth, non-violence, and perseverance. Community-based learning, encouraging students to participate in social service activities like volunteering at orphanages or environmental campaigns, which foster empathy and a sense of responsibility. Conclusion. In conclusion, value education in India is deeply rooted in its cultural and spiritual traditions, emphasizing the development of a balanced, ethical, and compassionate individual. Through integrating values into the educational system, India aims to nurture future generations who are not only knowledgeable but also responsible and conscientious citizens. This holistic approach to education is crucial for building a more harmonious and equitable society. Next important long question is write in detail about educational implication of Sankhya and Yoga. The educational implications of Sankhya and Yoga, two of the 6 classical systems of Indian philosophy, have profound relevance in shaping holistic education. These systems, which focus on self-realization, discipline, and the balance of mind and body, offer valuable insights into the ways education can nurture intellectual, emotional, and spiritual growth. Sankhya philosophy in education. Sankhya, founded by sage Kapila, is a dualistic philosophy that emphasizes the separation between Purusha, consciousness, and Prakriti, matter. It seeks to explain the nature of reality and the paths to liberation, primarily focusing on knowledge and discernment, Viveka. The educational implications of Sankhya are 1. Self-awareness and knowledge. Sankhya encourages the development of self-awareness through deep inquiry. In education, this can mean promoting critical thinking and reflection. For example, students are encouraged to question and analyze their thoughts, actions, and beliefs to achieve higher self-awareness and intellectual clarity. 2. Mind-body balance. Sankhya philosophy teaches that the mind, buddhi, must be cultivated for proper understanding, while the body, prakriti, should be disciplined. In schools, this can translate into integrating physical education and mindfulness practices into the curriculum to foster mental and physical balance. 3. Focus on liberation. Sankhya advocates for moksha, liberation, through knowledge. The educational system influenced by Sankhya would focus not just on academic learning but also on promoting values like inner peace, moral clarity, and spiritual growth. Yoga philosophy in education. Yoga, as outlined by sage Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, focuses on mental discipline, meditation, and the practice of physical postures, asanas. Its educational implications include 1. Holistic development. Yoga emphasizes the development of body, mind, and spirit. In education, this translates to the inclusion of yoga practices, meditation, and breathing exercises to reduce stress, increase concentration, and promote emotional well-being. For example, daily yoga sessions in schools can help students develop greater focus and mental clarity. 2. Discipline and self-control. Yoga teaches self-discipline and control over desires through practices like abstinence and moderation. In education, this can be applied by encouraging students to develop self-control over their impulses, leading to better study habits and improved behavior in school. 3. Mindfulness and emotional balance. Yoga encourages mindfulness and emotional stability. Educators can integrate mindfulness techniques into the classroom to help students manage their emotions and enhance their mental resilience, leading to better learning outcomes and personal growth. Conclusion. In conclusion, the educational implications of Sankhya and Yoga promote a holistic approach to learning, focusing not only on intellectual development but also on emotional and spiritual growth. Integrating principles of Sankhya, like self-awareness and discernment, alongside the practices of yoga, such as mindfulness and physical discipline, can create an educational system that nurtures well-rounded individuals, preparing them for both academic success and personal fulfillment. Next important long question is explain the aims, curriculum and methods of idealism. Idealism is a philosophical approach to education that emphasizes the development of the mind and the pursuit of higher truths. In idealism, the focus is on teaching ideas, moral values, and intellectual development, guiding students toward self-realization and truth. The aim is to cultivate a student's mind and character, guiding them to connect with universal principles. Aims of idealism in education. The primary aim of idealism in education is to help students discover and understand the eternal truths that exist in the world of ideas. Key objectives include 1. Intellectual development. The focus is on developing critical thinking, reasoning, and the ability to engage with abstract ideas. Students are encouraged to explore concepts like beauty, justice, and truth, which are seen as part of a higher realm. 2. Moral and character development. Idealism also aims to nurture the moral and ethical development of students. Education should shape character and help individuals become virtuous citizens. 3. Self-realization. Idealism emphasizes the role of education in helping students understand their true nature and connect with their higher selves. For example, the study of classical literature, philosophy, and ethics helps students contemplate universal principles and the nature of reality, encouraging them to live a more thoughtful, meaningful life. Curriculum of idealism. In idealism, the curriculum is centered around subjects that promote intellectual and moral growth, particularly those that deal with ideas and abstract concepts. The curriculum typically includes 1. Philosophy and literature. These subjects are crucial because they encourage students to explore deeper truths about life, existence, and morality. Works of Plato, Aristotle, or other philosophers are often emphasized. 2. Arts. Art, music, and literature are valued because they help students understand beauty and creativity, which are considered reflections of the ideal. 3. Ethics and moral science. Education includes the study of moral philosophy and ethical dilemmas, encouraging students to reflect on their values and make ethical choices. For instance, students might study the works of Plato's Republic to explore concepts of justice and the ideal society, linking philosophy to real-world issues. Methods of idealism. The methods of idealism focus on discussion, critical thinking, and the development of abstract reasoning. Some key methods include 1. Lecture and discussion. Teachers play a central role in guiding discussions on abstract concepts. Socratic questioning encourages deep thinking and self-reflection. 2. Socratic method. This method involves asking students questions that challenge their assumptions and encourage them to think critically and logically about issues. For example, a teacher might ask students to reflect on what justice means in different contexts, leading them to engage with moral and philosophical ideas critically. Conclusion. In conclusion, the educational philosophy of idealism aims to shape students intellectually, morally, and spiritually by focusing on the pursuit of knowledge, understanding of universal truths, and development of character. Its curriculum is centered around the study of literature, philosophy, and the arts, and its methods encourage critical thinking, reflection, and deep engagement with abstract ideas. Idealism seeks to foster well-rounded individuals who strive to live lives of purpose, virtue, and intellectual fulfillment. Next important long question is write in detail about naturalism contribution to education. Naturalism is an educational philosophy that emphasizes the importance of learning through nature and real-life experiences. It believes that education should follow the natural development of a child, allowing them to learn through observation, exploration, and direct interaction with their environment. This approach contrasts with rigid, formal methods and instead focuses on fostering the natural curiosity and creativity of children. Contributions of naturalism to education. 1. Child-centered learning. Naturalism places the child at the center of the educational process. It recognizes that each child develops at their own pace and that learning should be tailored to their individual needs and interests. For instance, in a naturalistic classroom, teachers might allow students to choose topics they are passionate about, encouraging self-directed learning. This leads to a more personalized education where students are motivated to explore topics that interest them, as opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. 2. Learning through experience. According to naturalism, knowledge is best acquired through hands-on experiences and direct interaction with the environment. For example, a naturalistic approach would involve teaching science through outdoor experiments, field trips, and activities like gardening or observing wildlife, rather than just reading textbooks. This approach helps students connect theoretical knowledge with practical applications, making learning more meaningful and memorable. 3. Emphasis on physical activity. Naturalism values the role of physical activity in learning. Physical activities, outdoor exploration, and free play are seen as essential for a child's development. For instance, instead of long classroom lectures, a naturalistic educator might take students outside for an activity that ties into the curriculum, such as studying plants and animals in a nearby park. This helps to develop not just intellectual skills, but also physical health and emotional well-being. 4. Development of individuality. Naturalism emphasizes the development of a child's individuality, allowing them to explore their interests and talents in a natural, non-pressured environment. It supports the idea that each child is unique, and education should cater to their personal growth, helping them become self-reliant and independent thinkers. Conclusion. In conclusion, naturalism's contribution to education is profound, focusing on child-centered learning, experiential education, and the importance of physical activity. By allowing students to learn through natural exploration and encouraging their individuality, naturalism provides a more flexible, engaging, and holistic educational experience. This approach not only promotes intellectual growth, but also nurtures creativity, independence, and emotional health, making it a valuable philosophy in modern education. Next important long question is discuss in detail the salient features of pragmatism and its relevance to present-day. Pragmatism is a philosophical approach that emphasizes practical consequences and real-world applications of ideas. It originated in the United States in the late 19th century, with thinkers like John Dewey, William James, and Charles Sanders Peirce shaping its development. Pragmatism focuses on the belief that knowledge and truth are not absolute but are shaped by experiences and their practical outcomes. In the context of education, pragmatism emphasizes experiential learning, problem-solving, and the application of knowledge in real-life situations. Salient features of pragmatism. 1. Focus on experience. Pragmatism asserts that knowledge arises from practical experiences. It encourages students to learn through trial and error, experimentation, and reflection. For example, instead of learning math purely through abstract formulas, students might engage in hands-on activities like building structures or measuring objects to understand concepts better. 2. Learning by doing. Pragmatism emphasizes active learning, where students learn best by actively engaging in the process rather than being passive recipients of information. For instance, in a science class, students might perform experiments to test hypotheses rather than simply reading about scientific principles. 3. Problem-solving and critical thinking. Pragmatism encourages students to solve real-world problems, fostering critical thinking and creativity. It moves away from rote memorization and focuses on developing skills that can be applied in various situations. A teacher might ask students to work on projects that require them to find solutions to real-life challenges, such as designing an eco-friendly building or creating a community outreach program. 4. Flexible curriculum. The curriculum in a pragmatic approach is flexible and adaptable, reflecting the evolving needs of society and the individual student. This approach encourages interdisciplinary learning, where students can explore different subjects and draw connections between them. For example, a project-based curriculum might incorporate aspects of science, math, and art to solve a common problem. Relevance to present-day. Pragmatism is highly relevant in today's education system because it prepares students for an ever-changing world. In the context of rapidly evolving technology and global challenges, pragmatic education encourages adaptability and problem-solving skills. For example, students today face complex issues like climate change, social inequality, and digital transformation. A pragmatic approach equips them with the tools to think critically and creatively about these problems and come up with practical solutions. Moreover, in the age of information overload, pragmatism emphasizes real-world application of knowledge, ensuring that learning is not just theoretical but useful in everyday life. It also aligns with modern educational methods like project-based learning, where students engage in activities that have practical significance. Conclusion. In conclusion, pragmatism's emphasis on experience, problem-solving, and flexibility makes it highly relevant to contemporary education. By focusing on practical skills and real-world application, it prepares students to navigate a complex, ever-changing world. Its relevance is evident in today's educational practices, where active learning, critical thinking, and interdisciplinary approaches are integral to fostering well-rounded, adaptable individuals. Next important long question is discuss Rabindranath Tagore philosophy of education in relation to views on the meaning, aims of education, curriculum and methods of teaching. Rabindranath Tagore, a renowned poet, philosopher, and educator, developed a unique philosophy of education that was deeply rooted in his cultural, spiritual, and humanistic values. His approach to education was holistic, emphasizing the development of the mind, body, and spirit in harmony with nature and society. His ideas continue to influence education in India and beyond. Meaning and aims of education. Tagore believed that the true purpose of education is to cultivate the full potential of an individual, integrating intellectual, emotional, and spiritual development. He saw education not just as the acquisition of knowledge, but as the process of self-discovery and personal growth. The aim of education, according to Tagore, is to enable individuals to experience the world in its fullness and to understand the deeper meaning of life. For example, in his school, Santiniketan, he encouraged students to explore their inner selves through creative activities like music, dance, and art, alongside traditional academic subjects. Curriculum. Tagore's curriculum was innovative and interdisciplinary, designed to foster creativity and free thinking. He was against rigid, examination-oriented systems of education. His curriculum focused on experiential learning where students learned from nature, the arts, and human interactions rather than just textbooks. For example, instead of learning about nature from books, children would be taken outside to observe the natural world, learning firsthand through experiences. He also advocated for a global outlook in education, teaching students about world cultures, ideas, and values to foster unity and peace. At Santiniketan, students learned not only the conventional subjects but also music, drama, dance, and fine arts to develop well-rounded individuals. Methods of teaching. Tagore's teaching methods emphasized freedom, creativity, and individual expression. He believed that teachers should not just be transmitters of knowledge but guides who help students discover their true potential. For example, in his method, a teacher would encourage students to ask questions, explore their interests, and express themselves freely through various forms of art. He also promoted the idea of learning through nature. In Santiniketan, classrooms were designed in the open air, allowing students to learn from their surroundings rather than in a confined space. Tagore felt that learning should not be restricted by four walls. Conclusion. In conclusion, Rabindranath Tagore's philosophy of education focuses on holistic development, combining intellectual, emotional, and spiritual growth. His emphasis on freedom, creativity, and experiential learning remains relevant today, encouraging students to develop into well-rounded, thoughtful individuals. By integrating nature, art, and global perspectives into education, Tagore's approach creates an enriching learning environment that fosters independent thinking, self-expression, and a deeper connection to the world. Next important long question is right about the vision and educational practices of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi's vision of education was deeply rooted in his values of truth, non-violence, and self-reliance. Gandhi's educational philosophy, often referred to as Nai Talim, new education, focused on the holistic development of the individual. His aim was to provide an education that not only focused on intellectual growth but also moral development, practical skills, and social responsibility. Vision of education. Gandhi believed that education should nurture the head, heart, and hands. In his view, intellectual knowledge, emotional growth, and practical skills were equally important in shaping well-rounded individuals. His goal was to create self-reliant citizens who could contribute positively to society. Gandhi's vision was to move away from a colonial education system, which he felt was disconnected from the realities of Indian life and culture. Aims of education. 1. Self-reliance and practical skills. Gandhi emphasized that education should make students self-sufficient. He believed that learning practical skills like spinning, weaving, and farming would help students become independent and reduce reliance on outside systems. For instance, in his schools, children were taught to spin khadi, hand-spun cloth as part of their education. 2. Moral and character development. Gandhi argued that education should build character by instilling values like truth, non-violence, ahimsa, and service. For example, he believed that children should not only learn from textbooks but also develop compassion, integrity, and a sense of social responsibility. 3. Integral education. Gandhi advocated for an education system that integrated intellectual learning with physical and moral education. This means that children should be involved in handicrafts, gardening, or other physical work while studying academic subjects. By doing this, children not only gain practical skills but also learn the value of labor and hard work. Educational practices. Gandhi's Sevagram and Sabarmati Ashram schools reflected his vision. The curriculum was centered around real-life experiences rather than rote learning. Students learned subjects like history, science, and literature but also engaged in practical activities like farming and spinning. This hands-on approach helped students connect academic knowledge with everyday life. Conclusion. In conclusion, Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of education was grounded in the idea of holistic development, focusing on intellectual, moral, and practical growth. His vision encouraged self-reliance, moral values, and the integration of learning with everyday life. His educational practices continue to be relevant today, advocating for a more balanced and meaningful approach to education that goes beyond textbooks to include real-world skills and ethical development. Next important long question is discuss educational practices of Froebel and Paulo Freire. Friedrich Froebel and Paulo Freire were two influential educators whose ideas have shaped modern educational practices. Though they lived in different times and cultural contexts, both emphasized the importance of active learning, student engagement, and the development of critical thinking. Friedrich Froebel's educational practices. Friedrich Froebel, a German educator, is best known as the founder of kindergarten. His educational philosophy emphasized the importance of play in early childhood education and the role of children as active learners. Froebel believed that children learn best through hands-on experiences, self-expression, and interaction with their environment. 1. Play-based learning. Froebel emphasized the role of play in early learning, considering it a vital way for children to explore their world, develop creativity, and understand basic concepts. For example, in Froebel's kindergarten, children would engage with educational toys like building blocks, which allowed them to explore shapes, sizes, and patterns, promoting cognitive and motor skill development. 2. Child-centered approach. Froebel believed that children should be the center of the educational process and teaching should be adapted to the child's developmental stage. He advocated for learning environments that encouraged self-discovery, independence, and emotional development. Paulo Freire's educational practices. Paulo Freire, a Brazilian educator and philosopher, is best known for his book Pedagogy of the Oppressed. His philosophy focused on dialogue and critical thinking, and he believed education should empower students to question and challenge societal inequalities. 1. Dialogue and problem posing. Freire criticized traditional banking education, where students passively receive information from teachers. Instead, he promoted dialogical education, where teachers and students engage in conversations, share ideas, and work together to solve problems. For example, in a Freire-inspired classroom, students would not just memorize facts but actively question and debate social issues such as poverty or injustice, fostering critical thinking. 2. Student empowerment. Freire believed that education should be a tool for liberation, encouraging students to critically engage with the world around them and challenge oppressive structures. For example, Students might work on community-based projects that address local issues, thus developing not only academic skills but also social consciousness. Conclusion. In conclusion, both Froebel and Freire emphasized active participation in learning. Froebel's focus on play-based learning and self-expression in early childhood laid the foundation for modern early education practices. On the other hand, Freire's advocacy for dialogue, critical thinking, and social empowerment remains highly influential in adult education and movements for social justice. Both educational practices encourage students to become active learners who engage with their world, develop their creativity, and become agents of change. Next important long question is write in detail about J.J. Rousseau's contribution to education. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, an 18th century philosopher, made significant contributions to education, particularly through his work Emile, or on education. Rousseau's educational ideas focused on the natural development of children, promoting the idea that education should be aligned with the child's natural instincts and stages of growth rather than imposed from outside. His philosophy of education emphasized freedom, individual expression, and the importance of nature in a child's development. Key contributions of Rousseau to education. 1. Natural education. Rousseau believed that education should follow the natural course of a child's development. He proposed that children should not be pressured into learning things they are not ready for. Instead, education should be a process of discovery, where children learn by interacting with the world around them. For instance, in Emile, Rousseau talks about the importance of learning through experience, where children should be allowed to explore nature, experiment, and learn from their surroundings rather than just being taught formal subjects like history and mathematics. 2. Importance of freedom. Rousseau argued that children should have the freedom to develop their own ideas rather than be constrained by rigid school systems. He believed that education should foster independence and allow children to form their own opinions. For example, in Emile, Rousseau describes an ideal education system where a child is free to explore their surroundings and make decisions, which helps in the development of critical thinking and self-reliance. 3. The role of nature. Rousseau placed great importance on nature in education. He believed that nature provided the best environment for a child to develop because it was free from the corrupting influences of society. For example, he suggested that children should spend significant time outdoors, experiencing nature and learning through direct interaction with the natural world, rather than being confined to classrooms. 4. Stage-based learning. Rousseau's philosophy also introduced the idea that education should be tailored to a child's age and developmental stage. For example, younger children should be taught through play and exploration, while older children should be gradually introduced to more complex subjects, such as philosophy and morality. Conclusion. In conclusion, Rousseau's contributions to education emphasized a child-centered, nature-based approach. His belief in natural development, freedom, and learning through experience laid the foundation for progressive education models. His ideas continue to influence modern educational practices, especially in areas focusing on early childhood development and educational freedom, advocating for a system that respects the child's pace and individuality. Next important long question is write the meaning, types, need, and significance of values. Values are the fundamental beliefs, principles, or standards that guide our behavior, decisions, and interactions with others. They represent what we consider important in life, helping us to distinguish between right and wrong, good and bad. Values shape our character and influence our actions, forming the foundation for how we lead our lives and contribute to society. Types of values. 1. Moral values. These are principles that guide us to distinguish between right and wrong. For example, honesty, integrity, and fairness are moral values. 2. Cultural values. These reflect the traditions, customs, and practices of a particular group or society. For example, respect for elders or community support in some cultures. 3. Social values. These values are about how we relate to others in society. Examples include cooperation, empathy, and responsibility. 4. Spiritual values. These are values connected to our beliefs about life and the universe, often influenced by religion or personal spirituality. Examples include peace, humility, and compassion. 5. Personal values. These are the individual beliefs and priorities that guide our personal decisions. For example, ambition, independence, or family. Need for values. 1. Guidance in decision-making. Values help individuals make decisions by providing a framework for determining what is right or wrong in different situations. For example, a person who values honesty will always tell the truth, even in difficult situations. 2. Social harmony. Shared values among people promote cooperation, reduce conflict, and help maintain social order. For instance, respect for laws is a shared value in most societies. 3. Personal growth. Values help individuals grow and develop as better human beings. For example, someone who values education will make consistent efforts to improve their knowledge and skills. Significance of values. 1. Shape character and personality. Values play a critical role in developing an individual's character. For instance, a person who values respect will behave in a courteous and considerate manner toward others. 2. Promote ethical behavior. Values like honesty, responsibility, and kindness encourage ethical behavior. A student who values integrity will not cheat on an exam. 3. Create a positive society. Values are essential for creating a society that is just, peaceful, and harmonious. For example, values like tolerance and respect for diversity foster unity in a multicultural society. Conclusion. In conclusion, values are the guiding principles that influence our choices, behaviors, and interactions. They help us make decisions, maintain social harmony, and develop personal character. Whether moral, social, or spiritual, values shape our individual lives and the world around us, making them crucial for both personal and societal well-being. Next important long question is explain how does ancient Indian education system fostered value inculcation in children? The ancient Indian education system was deeply rooted in values and aimed at not just imparting knowledge, but also instilling moral and ethical principles in children. Education was seen as a way to nurture both the mind and the character, preparing individuals to contribute to society in meaningful ways. The system was primarily Gurukul-based, where children were taught by gurus, teachers, in natural surroundings, focusing on both spiritual and practical knowledge. Fostering value inculcation. 1. Moral and ethical teachings. The curriculum in ancient India emphasized values such as truth, non-violence, ahimsa, compassion, and dharma, righteous living. For example, students learned sacred texts like the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita, which focused on moral lessons and duties toward family, society, and nature. Through stories, proverbs, and discussions, children were taught about the importance of truthfulness and kindness in their daily lives. 2. Holistic development. Ancient Indian education didn't just focus on academic learning but also emphasized character building. Subjects like yoga, meditation, and music were included in the curriculum to develop a child's mind, body, and spirit. For example, yoga helped in fostering discipline, patience, and self-control, while meditation encouraged self-reflection and mindfulness, which were essential for moral development. 3. Respect for teachers and elders in the ancient education system. Respect for the guru, teacher, and elders was fundamental. The student-teacher relationship was built on trust and reverence. Children were taught to treat their teachers with great respect, and the guru played an important role in guiding them not only in academics but also in matters of character and personal development. 4. Connection to nature. Education in ancient India was often conducted in natural settings, such as forests or gardens, where students learned about nature and developed a sense of environmental responsibility and interconnectedness with the world around them. This connection fostered values like respect for nature and simplicity. Conclusion. In conclusion, the ancient Indian education system played a crucial role in inculcating values like truth, respect, compassion, and discipline in children. By integrating spiritual learning, practical skills, and a strong ethical foundation, it fostered well-rounded individuals who were not only knowledgeable but also morally grounded. The emphasis on values helped shape a society where individuals contributed selflessly to the greater good. Next important long question is explain dimensions of professional ethics of teachers as per NCTE. The National Council for Teacher Education, NCTE, outlines a framework for the professional ethics of teachers to ensure that they maintain high standards of behavior, integrity, and responsibility in their work. These ethics serve to guide teachers in their interactions with students, parents, colleagues, and society at large. The NCTE emphasizes several dimensions of professional ethics, focusing on the role of teachers in fostering a positive, respectful, and productive learning environment. 1. Commitment to the profession. Teachers are expected to have a strong commitment to their profession and to continually work towards improving their skills and knowledge. This includes maintaining a passion for teaching and a dedication to the academic and personal development of students. For example, a teacher regularly updates their subject knowledge, attends workshops, and adapts teaching methods to meet the diverse needs of students. 2. Integrity and honesty. Teachers must act with honesty, transparency, and integrity in all their dealings. This means maintaining ethical standards in evaluations, avoiding favoritism, and being truthful in all their communications with students, parents, and colleagues. For instance, a teacher should grade exams fairly and provide constructive feedback without bias or personal preference. 3. Responsibility towards students. Teachers should always act in the best interests of their students. This includes creating a safe, inclusive, and respectful learning environment, being attentive to the needs of every student, and addressing any form of discrimination or bullying. For example, a teacher should ensure that all students feel heard and supported, regardless of their background, and should encourage them to reach their full potential. 4. Professional conduct and collaboration. Teachers should collaborate with colleagues, school administrators, and parents to enhance the learning experience for students. They should work together to address challenges in education and create a cooperative and respectful work environment. For example, a teacher could participate in regular staff meetings to share resources and ideas for improving teaching practices. 5. Social responsibility. Teachers have a responsibility to contribute to societal development by promoting values such as respect, fairness, and social justice. This includes preparing students not just for exams, but also for life in a diverse and interconnected world. For instance, A teacher might include lessons on global citizenship or environmental sustainability in the curriculum to raise awareness among students. Conclusion. In conclusion, the professional ethics of teachers as outlined by the NCT emphasize commitment to the profession, integrity, responsibility toward students, professional collaboration, and social responsibility. These ethical guidelines ensure that teachers not only impart academic knowledge but also serve as role models who foster values and positive behaviors in their students, contributing to both personal and societal growth. Students, for other units explanation and other subjects quick revision or explanation links are available in description. Check out once. I think it will be useful to you. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Like and share this video with your friends.